Hello everyone. Today we're going to talk about drama. Drama and narratives and all sorts of literary terms, which we're more or less familiar with depending on how much we read and how much we're nerding out about film and literature. I studied film and literature at university, and that's why I have a high affinity when it comes to storytelling and everything. So shamanism has a lot to do with storytelling and just narrative in general. There's a German author, Swiss author actually, who once said that sooner or later we all invent a story that we call our life. Max Frisch. His point of view is, of course, that it's all made up in a way. It's all fiction. That's also what I wrote my bachelor thesis about, that the memoir is fiction. Every memoir is fiction. And from the shamanic point of view, everything that you imagine is real. So it's not just like, okay, because I can touch this and throw it on the floor and break it, that's why it's real. It's actually, even if I was thinking about that and it didn't really exist, it would still be real because it exists in my imagination. Or if you go one step further, in the spirit realm. So if we take that as a fact, your life is the story that you make up about your life. Immediately, you receive all the power. And that's what shamanism is about. And that's what every session, essentially, with every client, whether it's with tattoos or a healing session or mentoring, that's what it's always about. It's always about coming home to your power, returning to your power. And in very creative, twisted, complicated ways, that's also always the issue why the person comes to see me and they're like, oh yeah, I don't know, this person broke up with me, or I have like pain in my left foot, or I can't speak to my mom anymore, or I don't know what to do with my children, I'm losing a court case, whatever it might be. Things are out of control, and when things are out of control, we feel like if we had control, it would be better because we would do it differently, because we would tell a different story, because it would be a different narrative. It would be a narrative where we're the subject and everybody else is the object. So we would win the court case, we would have the custody, we would heal the dog, we would make up with the ex, whatever it might be. If we just had the power. But that idea of not having the power, that's a story that we tell ourselves, and that's an old story. And in the Kara shamanic principle, that's the south, and the south is the serpent. The serpent is the animal that stands for the emotions, but also the past and the old stories, the narratives that we tell ourselves. Oh, I'm a victim. Oh, I'm not good with music. Oh, I can't remember numbers. Oh, I have bad luck when it comes to love. Those are all stories. It's just stories. And the more we repeat them, the more they are repeated in our lives. But the serpent, the animal of the south, is also the most transformative animal because it can literally shed its skin, takes it off, like boom, okay, new person, there we go. And we can do that too. We can do that in shamanic ways, and it's natural to do it in shamanic ways because all shamanic traditions are rooted in nature, in the directions, in the seasons, in the cyclicality of life, of all life, life of elements, plants, animals, humans. And that's where it all begins, you know, that we take off skins and start again. That happens when we reach puberty, for example. That happens when we have children. It happens when we move, when we get married, when we get divorced, when we bury a loved one, when we grow older, when we achieve great things, when we experience loss. That's all a shedding of skin. And in that shedding of skin lies not only the letting go of the past and embracing the new. As we spiritual people all know, it's about turning wounds into power. That's what happens. And we turn wounds into power by changing the story. And we don't change the narrative. We don't change the story itself. But what we do change is, for all literary nerds out there, the plot. And the plot is the causality of events. So the causality of a normal average person, sorry to generalize, but yeah, is things happen to me. And if I would have been free or able to take control, it wouldn't have gone wrong. That's the normal narrative that we live in. And we try to control everything with our mind, with our apps on our phone, and we're like, oh, if I can just have the power, the money, the health, the love, then I can control stuff and nothing's gonna go wrong. And then when things go wrong, it's like, oh, shit happened, you know, it rained, and then somebody died who wasn't supposed to die. I mean, what the fuck? Really, that's how we function. But the plot twist is, and that's what I do in the session, in the healing sessions. I go in and I find out where the power is for that person. And the power is always hidden somewhere. Even if you get locked up in a basement for 2 years and tortured, which is absolutely horrible and that should not happen to anyone. But even if that happens to you, you can turn it around, go really deep into that basement and find the treasure in there and find out what you can take out of it and why it was for you, why it worked for you and not against you. And I'm not saying that to like justify anything horrible that happens in the world, but the world that we live in is not a perfect world. It's not the Garden of Eden. It's crazy and messed up and tragic in a lot of ways. And all of us who are here decided to come here anyways. So there is a general readiness in every living human being to learn, to transform, to shed skins, to turn wounds into power, to change points of view, rearrange the plot, the causality, why things happened, why they didn't happen to you, before you. Those are all a given. They're all a given if you come to me, especially. If you come to me and you're like, hey, I don't know, I can't stop thinking about this girl. I don't know how to make money. I've got this headache that's never gonna go away. I'm not happy with the size of my hips, whatever it might be. There's something in you that wants to have a plot twist. You want a game changer, as we call it. And that's where creativity comes in, because I could just go and like fix everything and, you know, follow up with your golden thread of destiny. I can look at your soul contract. I can find out why did you meet this person, why did they break up with you. I can find out what's going on in your chakra that you're not happy with your hip. I can look at everything, and I can take, you know, old narratives out. I can burn soul contracts and write new ones for you, with you, whatever. I can cut the cords between you and your parents and your ancestors and toxic people who stalked you, whatever it might be. But you still have your old story. You still have your old story that you've been telling yourself about your life and about who you are and what you can do. And that story began when you went to kindergarten, maybe when you went to school, and it's like, oh, you know, the genius, oh, wild imagination, unconcentrated, a problem child, stuff like that. Those narratives, we built them, but we built them with the rocks that people gave us, that society gave us. And as long as you're not ready to come out of that old story and to literally take off your skin like a bodysuit, like a surfer, when you come out of the water, if you're not ready to do that, there's only so much that I can do. I can fix everything, but then if you walk out the door and you're like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm the problem. And that's also an important thing, you know. A problem is very important in any narrative. A problem is a monster catalyst, and once the monster catalyst is released, a lot of crazy stuff happens, and a lot of crazy stuff leads to a lot of chaos, and a lot of chaos leads to a lot of transformation. Maybe not in you, but in everybody around you, and it gives you a place. It gives you a meaning. It's also a survival strategy, because you know how to place yourself in a society. Even being homeless is an identity. You know, I can't go and ask people for money in the streets. That's not something that's societally just not accepted. If I was wearing rags and sleeping in the street, I could do that. Not saying that being homeless is great, but there are so many narratives and so many roles that we give ourselves in order to belong, or even not belonging is a way of belonging. I'm the outsider, I'm the lone wolf. Everything is an old story that we've been telling ourselves. And when people come to me, they have to be ready to release those old stories or transform them. We can release only so much. The only thing we can release is what's never been ours. Everything that is ours, we transform. And that transformation takes place by power retrieval, soul retrieval, cord cutting, illuminations, all these practices that we have as shamans to help the person return to their core, return to their heart, who they really are. And that's where the plot twist takes place. So I'm going to come up with an example. If you're, I get a lot of breakups. Somehow that's my thing, I think. So I'm going to come with one of those examples. If somebody broke up with you, and you come to me and you're heartbroken and you don't know how to deal with it, you can't let go, that's you're in a story of powerlessness, you're in a story of abandonment, you're in a story of neglect. You decided to be with somebody, you committed, and that person let you down. That's traumatic, always. It's hard to just say, oh, okay, it wasn't meant to be. Ooh, I'm zen. I'm hovering above the ground. That's not really possible. If you do that, then it means that you were never really invested, which is okay. That's also, it's a way of dealing with things, to not fully invest ever. But still, for the most people, it's like, oh, a near-death experience almost, because you're abandoned. And the story that you tell yourself is that somebody broke up with you. But in the invisible realm, where I go when we work together to look at what really happened, you agreed to that breakup a long, long time ago. And you didn't agree to that breakup because it's actually pleasant for you and it's what you deserve and it's what you desire. You agreed to that breakup because of the world and the narrative that we live in. And we're not in the Garden of Eden anymore. We live in a world that goes through intense transformation. And humans, all humans that are alive now, they have a purpose, they have a clear calling, maybe several, and in order to find those and in order to take part in this transformation, we also have to transform. So I go to that place where you decided what was going to happen, and I show you not the old story, but I show you the new story. And the new story is the power, the gift, the spirit animal, the soul piece that is coming to you out of this horrible breakup where you felt abandoned. And by the way, the breakup, of course, is not about your ex. It's never about them. It's probably about your parents, maybe about your grandparents, maybe ancestral, maybe land related, maybe past life, but it's always related to a contract that you made where you were like, I want to experience that in order to find this gift and unfold this power inside me, go home to my soul and contribute. It's never just about you, it's always reciprocity. It's about you and Mother Earth, you and Father Sky, you and all the plants and the animals. It's not just like, oh yeah, I'm going to work on myself and then I'm going to take care of everybody else. It's give and take. You can't really be there for everybody else when you don't look after yourself, and the other way around. So what you do by retrieving that power, by say, okay, I'm going to take a step out of the drama. I'm going to just offer my roles like this and be like, hey, maybe I'm not a loser. Maybe I don't have just bad luck with love all the time. Maybe I do deserve something better, or maybe it's something different altogether. Maybe it has nothing to do with romance. Maybe what it's all about is your creative expression. Maybe what it's all about is your femininity or your masculinity, or maybe it has to do with your great grandparents who had a way of honoring the earth that was lost in your lineage. It can be all of those things. But by saying, hey, I'm stepping out of the drama, I'm stepping out of the old story, I'm releasing the narrative and the plot where this happened because of that happened, and if then everything will be better. By being ready for that, you start a new story. It's still a story because we're humans and we love stories, and that's how our minds and our hearts work. But the new story is like a layer. It's a layer below the old one, and it's closer to your soul, and it's next to your heart, and it has grown out of your heart. And that's why creativity and shamanism belong together, in my opinion, because I could fix everything, as I said, but all the belief systems, all the narratives, all the stories that we tell ourselves about us and the world that we live in, it takes creativity to come up with those. And the more creative a story is, the more in depth, the more elaborate, the plot is and the characters, the more deep it goes. That's just like with movies and books. If it's just a flat story, boy meets girl, get married, divorce, yeah, you read it and you're like, okay, cool, heard it a million times. But as soon as it goes really deep, and the boy is a shipwrecked pirate and the girl is grew up on an island in Ireland in a cult or whatever, then it's like, oh, okay. And that means that the more creative you are in observing the world, in observing yourself, in naming things, not just one name, but several, the more you're open to accepting and inviting just really the crazy, crazy narratives of this life, the more powerful your story is going to be. And that doesn't mean that if you consider yourself not a creative person or whatever, that's, we're not all artists. Some of us are like really good mathematicians, not me, but I'm really grateful for those who are, because it's not my thing, but that's also a story I tell myself. And maybe one day, maybe I'm going to spend my old days doing math. Who knows? It's about this openness to be like, hey, I'm ready to transform the old story. I'm ready to transform it and to have it transformed in a way that leads me closer to my heart, closer to my soul. And that's always closer to true happiness. And that's where all the literary terms come in, because we have the victim, we have the villain, we have the hero, and the goal is to take you away from all these and lead you to who you really are, which is just you. We have plot twists, we have a shift of perspective when we work with spirit animals. And the more open you are to that type of creativity, the more powerful this work is going to be. And that doesn't mean that you yourself have to be super creative. Just be open to it, because trust me, I am. And if I get a soul piece for you, I'm going to see the thread of every button that this soul piece is wearing. And sometimes I have to hold myself back and be like, okay, no, we're not. Daniela, you're working as a shaman right now, not as a storyteller. It's not about the drama, because of course, like, we can also reinforce the old stories by saying, oh, this is the trauma, and this is what I saw, and there was a hurricane and body parts flying or whatever. But that's not my job. When we work together, it's my job to describe the new story and to invite you into your new story, where you can just really sink into your own skin and just be you and let go of the outside, the stuff that has been put on you, the roles, the characters, and you've been arranged. Like, all of us have been arranged in school, at work, in our families, wherever. It's like, oh, this is the person who's always like self-reliant. This is the person who's always drunk at a funeral. This is the person who's great with children. And it's okay, to a certain extent it's okay, because we are humans and we work with narratives, we work with stories. That's how we make sense of this world, unless you're a mathematician. But in order to heal, we have to jump out of those narratives again and again. And you could still go back to the family gathering and be the one who's great with children. That's okay. But do it voluntarily. Do it out of a feeling of freedom, and not because you don't know anything else, not because somebody has come up with a story for your life and you've been repeating it and that's all you know. And that's real power. Real power from within comes from knowing who you are and why you do what you do in order to learn what you learn. Power is not having a shit ton of money and private jets. That's not power. That might be a lot of fun, but power is being fully aware of who you really are and where your gifts lie, and that you in every moment have all the freedom that a human being could ever have, whether you're homeless or you have a private jet. And that power and that freedom, that lies in the plot twist, in the story, in the letting go of old stories and creating or embracing the new story and going deeper and deeper and deeper into yourself. Okay, I hope this is not too confusing and it makes sense. I hope it's interesting also to those who didn't study literature and are not film nerds or some other like storytelling lovers. If you have any questions, let me know. If you're interested in a session, of course, let me know, and have a good day.